Dr. Grace, it is good to have you back, and you were telling me off the air, and I've already teased the audience, that you have some inside scoop, some inside information on Donald Trump. Give it to us.
I do, Carl. I had the pleasure of meeting with members of his staff because we're trying to put together a town hall with Donald Trump in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. We had an incredible dinner with two gentlemen who work very closely with Donald Trump every time he's in New Hampshire. And what they told me is really, really revealing about the man. First of all, let me tell you, Carl, that I've met hundreds of staffers. I've met hundreds of folks who surround politicians. And these two were different, and I'll tell you how they're different. Number one, they were extremely competent, extremely effective. And number two, they genuinely revere him. They've spent a lot of time around him, and you could tell in their eyes and their body language, it wasn't just talking points, it wasn't just spin. Because long after the part of the meeting was over, the business part, we just were shooting the breeze. And they kept telling us anecdote about Donald Trump. And let me tell you about the man. First of all, you know that the press says that he's very unscripted when he gives these speeches. He seems to be talking off the cuff. Apparently, that's not so. What they told us is that before Donald Trump says anything, he does exhaustive research. And he often goes to the primary source. Let's say he's got to quote some statistics. He'll go to the primary source to get those statistics. He will study those statistics. He will read them again and again. They also told us, you know, in many of these town halls, there's always we set aside maybe 20 minutes for very important people, the VIPs who get a chance to mix and mingle with whoever it is we're inviting. He says that they told us that Donald Trump will actually ask his staff to give him a bio of every single person that he's going to meet. And he will study that bio, and he will know everything about them before he even meets them. In other words, Carl, what is extremely impressive, what I did not realize, is that Donald Trump appears to be unscripted, but in reality, that's a bit of an act.
Yeah.
And what's the act? The act belies something else. The act belies incredible discipline and incredible hard work and incredible drive. They also told us that he continues to sleep only 3 hours a night. And I said, hey, you would think a man with his achievements, with his wealth, he would, take the foot off the gas pedal, and just chill and relax. And I would. I know if I had his money, I'd be taking it easy. I wouldn't sleep just 3 hours a night, but that's just me. Call me crazy, right?
Right.
Well, apparently, Donald Trump sleeps just 3 hours a night. He's ferociously hardworking. He continues to be. And he also treats his staff, he puts them on a strict budget. He wants accountability for every single penny. Despite his vast wealth, he doesn't just throw it around. We saw that they were kind of jittery at one point as we're discussing the town hall and all that, and they were trying to cut costs until we said, well, wait a minute, we have a way to get a lot of this covered. And they told us, look, he puts us on a really strict budget, meaning he's running his campaign the way he runs a private business.
Yeah. And
the insider knowledge that I got, Donald, is really twofold. Carl, is really twofold. That Donald Trump has a ferocious work ethic that he's applying to the campaign, that there is absolutely nothing scripted. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's not the buffoon and the clown that the media is presenting him as. In fact, he's a very studied, calculating politician, and we see it in the results. And number two, he knows how to pick people. He's got really good judgment. He picks capable, competent people. And Carl, you and I know how hard it is to get interviews with folks. Like, I put out a request to various campaign staffers, and sometimes these people don't get back to me. It takes them days to get back to me, or they don't get back at all. And even some candidates that are polling at 1% or 2% or 3%, you would think that they would get back to the press really fast, and they would take every single opportunity to do an interview. And they don't. And one time in frustration, I said to my husband, I don't get it. This particular candidate is polling at 2%, and they're not getting back to me, and I want to interview them. What's going on?
Right.
And my husband said, you know what, Grace, sometimes candidates are losing in the polls for one simple reason. They don't have a good campaign organization, and that's an example of it.
Yeah.
And what you see with Donald Trump is the opposite. Their staffers get back to you with a blink of an eye. You have access to them over the phone if you need to once they touch base with you. And there's also something else, Carl, and this is very revealing. The staffers are petrified that Donald Trump will be assassinated. They have security up to the gazoo. In fact, we're talking about an event and 3/4 of the time is talked about security. And who do you think that they're most afraid of? They're not afraid of anybody in the United States. They're afraid of El Chapo. El Chapo has put $100 million bounty on Donald Trump's head, and they are really afraid that he's going to be assassinated. And that just shows you that the reason that Donald Trump is getting so much traction in the polls is, number one, his skill, but also, number two, he's definitely challenging vested interests.
Yeah.
And that's why they're afraid that he's going to get bumped off.
Well, Donald Trump ought to put $1 billion bounty on El Chapo.
Oh, wow, that's brilliant. And you know what else?
I mean, I would just, that's the way I operate life. Somebody comes at me like that, I just up the ante and go back at them. I just put it back on them.
What happened to the law enforcement called Gallups? You're ordering a hit.
I know. Listen, hey, listen, we've got about 20 seconds, so say whatever you want to say. Tell folks where they can find you, et cetera, and thanks for being on the show.
I want to tell them one more piece of information. They told us that Donald Trump relies on Ivanka Trump, his daughter. He thinks his daughter's judgment is flawless, that she has a really good heart. So they really gave us a window into who he trusts and how he operates.